5 copies of the How I Built This book, and I'm gonna, if you want it, maybe you don't, or maybe you just want it as a door, like a door stopper. Maybe you just want it as a paperweight, and that's fine too. I mean, if you use it that way, that's totally fine. I think there's some valuable stuff in there, but if you just want to put it on your bookshelf, and there you go, that's fine too. I want to send it to you, so there you go. I'm gonna hang around for a little longer and try to get to some more questions. I know we've got, I think is it pronounced Gotham or Gautam?
Yes, it's Gotham, like the city.
Gotham. Okay, good, great. I got it right. Good. Welcome, Gotham. Tell us a little bit about what you do and what your question is.
Yeah, Guy, first of all, I'm a huge fan of the podcast. And whenever someone asks me, like, what's my favorite podcast, I tell them it's How I Built This. And
thank you.
Brian, I'm actually in Vancouver as well. I guess, so I don't know how I started quite yet, but I want to start one. And I've been talking to potential users about the problems they have. The one issue I face is when you're interviewing people, they often say that they would like everything that you suggest or like point towards. I guess my question is, how do you dig deeper into that to figure out what's the actual pain points that they're facing and then solve for that?
How do you dig into the pain points that people are facing? Actually, this is a great question for Melissa Butler, I think for everybody, but can we start with you, Melissa? Like when you think about when you started a Lit Bar, what were the pain points you were trying to fix? What was this thing you thought you could solve?
Yeah, so right now authenticity is such a trendy word within business. But this one is actually for good reason, because I think that the more you are closely connected with your customer, the more you're able to dig in with their true pain points. So you may not be the customer that you're solving, and if you're not, you need to make sure that people on your team are your customer. Once you truly figure out who they are, what their lifestyle is, what's keeping them up at night, then you're able to have like true and authentic conversations with them. And that was my exact approach with the Lit Bar. When I started the company, making lipstick in my kitchen, working on Wall Street, it wasn't because I was passionate about makeup. I still am not passionate about makeup, and I make it a point to tell my customers that, my investors that, because it's actually not about the product. Like, sure, we make amazing makeup, but what we're actually doing is reminding our customers that they are enough, reminding women everywhere that they don't have to transform in order to be beautiful. And the way we were able to get really clear on that approach is because we understood that women wake up every day looking in the mirror, wanting to change something. And the only way we were able to really figure that out is because it was the lives that I lived and that most of my team lived. So we felt like it was unhealthy. We felt like it was unhealthy to have a standard of beauty that was outside of yourself. And so that was the pain point that we were solving. And we got there simply because we were so closely connected with our customer was, and again, what was keeping them up at night. So I would challenge you to make sure that you are truly getting to know who your customer is and why they should care about your product. I'll never forget one of the most valuable pieces of advice that someone gave me early in my startup journey. I was telling them all about the company that I was building, and I was super excited and eager. And the question that they asked me, it caught me completely off guard. They said, "Why does your company deserve to exist?" And I was almost offended by it. I was like, "Whoa, what do you mean? Why?" I didn't even know how to answer the question. But it took me a minute to pause and really realize, like, sure, there's other competition in the market. Obviously, beauty is a really saturated industry. And the person, they weren't asking me the question to be mean. They were asking me the question to remind me that you have to serve a true purpose for your customers in order for them to care. So digging deep is all about serving your customers.
Thanks for that, Melissa. Anybody else want to answer Gotham's question, Jamie?
Yeah, I think Melissa hit it right on the head, which is, I think look for an infinite truth. Ring, our mission is to make neighborhoods safer. It's not about that's the real invention of Ring. It wasn't the doorbell. It wasn't sort of a tactical product. And I think when you things can come from inventing a tactical sort of thing, But if you want to build a business, it should be something that is more than just a feature or a product. It should be something that does something for humans, that does something to raise people up, to make their lives better. So I think, for Ring, it's making neighborhoods safer. For Melissa, it's delivering sort of healthier, better beauty and making people like look better. I think those are the things that are less tactical. And when you do that, you do end up inspiring customers, inspiring team members, and building something much bigger and better.
Sorry, Brian, sounds like you wanted to, yeah, please.
No, I just unmuted. I was going to add that, not that our franchise owners are our customers. I mean, we really call them franchise partners because they succeed, we succeed together. But what's interesting about our franchise partners is, in the beginning, I thought they were entrepreneurs in the same way that I was an entrepreneur, that I want to invent things and create things and tweak things. And I realized that in the early days of the franchise program for 1-800-GOT-JUNK, people said, you know what? We bought into this because we wanted a proven recipe. Tell us exactly what to do. Show us what works. It's like baking a cake. You can invent and try and throw in a bunch of ingredients, but most people want to follow a recipe in a book and go, yeah, okay, I'm successful.
Yeah.
So with our business, it was listening to financial challenges. How are you overcoming payroll issues and hiring employees and training? And we bring all the best practices together. So to Melissa's point of listening, if you really understand what your people want, I think innovation is listening. It's truly having an ear to the ground with your people, with your owners, with your customers, and makes a huge difference.
Thanks, Brian. Just want to welcome Troy Carter, another How I Built This alum. It's so great to have you here. I mean, I haven't seen you in person, and as you know, in more than a year. We had you on again on the Resilience series on How I Built This. So welcome to the club. Welcome to our new club.
Thank you, guys. This is a pleasant surprise to see you.
It's great to see you. It's right. Great to hear you. Right? Yes. Well, Troy, now that you're here, we've got even more wisdom between you and Jamie and Melissa and Brian and Nancy. Steve Case was here for an hour and had to hop off. Let's take a couple more questions about challenges people are facing in their startups, and really any question that you have. But please, if you don't mind, try to keep it as brief as possible, because I want to get to a few more before we wrap up. So Eric, you are on. Welcome.
Hey guys, Ross. Quickly, I wanted to share a story. I came to How I Built This Summit, the very first one that you guys had.
Oh, wow.
And that's where I met Brian Scudamore, who's now an advisor for my startup,
Wow.
Brian was actually sitting next to me in the audience, and I was just looking around, and then he said, yeah, what do you do? And then I'm talking, gave him my name. And I said, what do you do? He's like, my name is actually Brian Scudamore. And then I looked, and then he said, I'm the founder of 1-800-GOT-JUNK. And it was just like, it goes crazy. But just wanted to share that story. So thank you. How I Built This definitely connected us. And then my biggest issue right now is, I want to say, like, forming a team, like so I have a bad habit of trying to do everything myself and delegating. And it's always like, I feel like someone can't do it just as good as I would do it. So I tried to, like, instead of getting upset with them or something like that, I just try to go ahead and do it myself and not allow them to actually finish the task. But it's like, how do you find, or how do you build the trust? I guess it's building trust, or just how do you trust that your teammates or the people that you put around you will, finish things, or just finding the people who, how did you go about finding the right people for, certain things? So like, even for your team, like finding the right people to do editing and things like that.
Such a good question. I mean, I think this is sort of the Elon Musk challenge, which is he's so good at everything, right? And he's the guy sleeping on the factory floor, and he's the guy coming up with marketing plans. But let Jamie Siminoff, let me start with you. I mean, this is you are the founder. It's your baby, right? How do you give up some of your control and delegate? How do you do that?
So we always gave a lot of autonomy to people right away. I always said, like, we were just a conglomeration of lots of CEOs. So give your team a area that they can focus on, give them a lot of autonomy, and then fire quickly. I mean, let them fail fast. And when you do that, you allow amazing things to happen where people can grow into positions and do things that'll sort of inspire you. And you'll find people that don't work, and maybe they work somewhere else. It's not that they're bad, they're just not the right thing for your company and your culture. And that's kind of how we always built it. And it has, what I love about that method is that it has allowed people that didn't have the resume to do things that were way above their, fight above their belt.
I'm going to just chime in too, because Eric, I've totally have been where you've been. And, over time, I've learned the importance of hiring for values. And I feel like I learned that lesson way too long. But what was so transformative for me was really defining what my personal values are, and then also the values of the company. And during that hiring process, using those values to determine whether or not the person is the right fit and is going to be able to, really live up to the challenge, which is oftentimes when you're first starting out, you don't have a lot of money to pay experienced people. So you're bringing in people who haven't done the job before, which means you're going to have to dedicate extra time to invest in them. But it could actually be a really successful situation so long as that person is motivated by the same values that you are. And actually, one of my first employees that I hired was a operations manager, and she had absolutely no experience doing the job, but our values were so aligned, and I was so incentivized to really invest the time. And she became like one of my strongest employees. So I think hiring for values is super important, but also making sure that you have the bandwidth to really invest the time in teaching people the skills that they need to be successful.
I mean, it sounds like at the end of the day, you've got to put the work in, right? I mean, if you are going to build a great team, you've got to put the work in. We actually had this great example in a recent episode of How I Built This. And welcome to anyone who's just joined us to the How I Built This Clubhouse Club. We had a great episode recently on, I mentioned this earlier, on seventh generation. And they had in the beginning, when it was just like 10 people in the company, every Friday they went around and they had a contest. And the contest was who could admit the biggest mistake of the week. And the person who sort of made the biggest mistake that week got a free coupon for a free meal. And the idea behind this was that if you could admit your mistake, nobody else would make the same mistake. And so they really celebrated this idea of making mistakes, learning from those mistakes, and moving on. And it really did empower people in that organization. So it's a small example, but one of the toughest challenges for startup CEOs is how do you give up your authority? Eric, thank you again for joining us. It's great having you. I want to go to Hoda here, who's been patiently waiting. I know, Hoda, welcome. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing, and please, the floor is yours.
Hey, Guy. Thanks so much. And again, I'm a huge fan, totally fangirling here right now. I actually was at a product conference in San Francisco, maybe like a year and a half ago at the Palace of Fine Arts where you spoke. So, and I was really inspired by the Whitney Wolf Bumble story and everything. And so I was at an early stage startup in the cannabis industry. It was a total roller coaster, and I learned a ton. And when I say early stage, I mean, we would literally run out of toilet paper and paper towel and have to do a Costco run. So yeah, it was very interesting. I was employee 17 when I left. It was like 52, but I'm now at a public company. It still feels pretty small. It's in the fintech space. And really my question is, it still feels like a startup, but obviously it's a big company because we're public, 3,000, 4,000 employees. My question really is about like influencing organizational change. So when there's a clear misfit that causes a loss of productivity and misalignment. Oh, sorry. Sorry, there's some background noise.
Yeah, no, sorry. We got you. Okay. Mic is off. Yep.
But yeah, so my question is really around like influencing organizational change, and like when there's a clear misfit that causes loss of productivity and misaligned priorities, like how do you influence leadership to see that and kind of get alignment to influence something like potentially even like a reorg or something.
Anybody want to weigh in?
I'm like a fish out of water on that one.
Any thoughts about about leadership, Brian?
What we've always used to lead with is our painted picture. So I created a vision years ago when I was in a doom loop, a bunch of depression, 8 years into the business. I was at $1 million in revenue, and I took out a sheet of paper and I started writing. I was at an inspiring place on the water, my parents' little summer cottage. And I said, what could the future look like if only I could imagine pure possibility? And I started thinking big things. We'll be the FedEx of junk removal. We'll be in 30 cities in North America, even though we're only in one. I said we'd be on the Oprah Winfrey Show. And 5 years out, that's what the vision would look like. And I started to share that painted picture with people around me. And the company reorged itself. I had half the people that said, Brian, you're smoking some hope dope. There's no way this is happening. And eventually they left. I had the other half who said, wow, this is compelling. I don't know how we're going to get there, but I want to be a part of the team that's going to get us there. So we always use vision, our painted pictures, 5 years out. That sets the direction. We don't know how we're going to get there, but it's bringing together awesome people that can somehow figure out how to make the vision a reality, and super exciting.
Hoda, thank you for your question. I'm going to just break for a quick moment. Tori, I know we promised to just pick 5 random people to give out copies of the How I Built This Book, signed copies. Do we have 5 random people that we've picked?
Yeah, let's go ahead, and I'm just going to scroll through really quick and look at some names and read out your names and username. If I read out your name and username, please go ahead and DM How I Built This on Twitter. That's at How I Built This, and we'll take care of you and get your mailing address. So just gonna scroll really quick through and read some people out. Let's get Susan Vobeda. Sorry if I'm butchering that. At Susan Vobeda. If you're listening, go ahead and DM us at How I Built This. Stella Lee at Stells Lee. Go ahead and DM us at How I Built This. Number 3. Who will it be? We've got Dr. S. Dr. Safia. Da, da, da.
All right, let's take a break, Tori. Come back to the last 2. That's awesome. Susan, Stella, Dr. Safia. We're going to send you a book. DM that How I Built This Twitter or mine. It doesn't matter, either one. Well, How I Built This is probably better because I'm terrible at Twitter, as Tori knows.
Hi, I
Yes?
just want to say thank you so much for having me. I'm going to have to jump off, but it was
Thank
such
you.
a pleasure being in community with all of you tonight. And I hope
Melissa,
you all
thank
have a
you.
wonderful night.
Thank you. We'll be in touch. It's so great having you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, let's get to Carrie. You've been hanging out here. Carrie, welcome. Floor is yours.
Hi, Guy. Hi, everyone. Thank you for letting me on the stage. I have to say, my daughter, who is my co-founder, is going to be so upset because way back whenever we traveled by car, she made me listen to your podcast, and they were great. She's we got turn this on. I'm like, what about R&B? She's like, no, we got to listen to God. So that's how I first came across your podcast. And I hate that Steve hung up because I am proud to say our company is part of the Rise of the Rest portfolio. Wow. And we are so thankful to Steve and to, the LPs and everyone that we're a city right in Birmingham, Alabama, of all places. And when he came through in 2018, my daughter pitched our company and we won. And because of him, that kicked off a $1 million round that in November of 2018 made us the 37th and 38th Black females to ever raise $1 million plus in tech and pre-seed, which is really, really great, right? But it's really, really sad because we're not far as Black females over that 100 bar now. And so just everything that Steve said and looking beyond and understanding how important connectivity is for all entrepreneurs, but how much higher the hurdle is for people of color and women. oftentimes when we're on stages across the country speaking, and oh, by the way, we actually won an international contest in Copenhagen because what our company, the problem it solves is international and it's been seen. But what my daughter will always is we've been referred to and we have as quad outside Black females in tech, and without, like, we had zero tech background. We built our company based on humans first and then technology. So am a non-millennial. And so I have to say, on top of the earth suit that I have of a darker hue, I also have to deal with not being a millennial. And my daughter is quick to tell people, my mom bootstrapped when I could only afford to sandal strap. And oh, by the way, she left her corporate high level HR role first and jumped in foot first. And so we just have to be careful of all the things we think people can be. No one should have to limit themselves, again, because of their earth suit, certainly of their age. And I look at Steve Case, and he certainly, his philosophy is starting to hit home with people. It's taking a lot of stuff, like a lot of negative stuff, but we're finally getting there. But I just wanted to share that. And again, my daughter, who is now blowing up my phone, what room are you in? What room are you in? And I'm not going to tell her, but ooh, that book mean a lot.
Carrie, thank you so much for sharing your story. It's so great. I wish Steve was here to hear it, but I know there are folks on Steve's team who are here, so I'm sure they'll pass it along. Thank you again for joining us. Troy, I want to bring you in, and Jamie, I know you have to run in a few minutes, so if you have to run, am I right? You gotta hop off.
Yeah, I have to get some food, or I'm gonna pass out.
I hear you. Me too. Me too. I'm gonna hop off in a bit. Jamie, thank you so much for joining us and giving us your insights. So great having you.
Thanks for having me. Thanks everyone for listening. And Troy, good to see you on this.
No, same here, Jamie. Let's catch up soon.
For sure.
Troy Carter, you are an entrepreneur, investor, founder of several different companies. If you guys haven't heard the episode of Troy Carter on How I Built This, Man, it's so good. He was riding around in a van with Lady Gaga, playing tiny venues all over the country, all over California, trying to build her up into a superstar, which they eventually did. It's an incredible story. Troy, you're an investor. You are always looking out for interesting opportunities. And I'm sure, and I know you get asked for advice, right? You're some of these companies are looking to you for questions and advice on how to kind of bulldoze or fix challenges they're facing. What do you sort of find? What kind of challenges have you come across lately from some of the founders that you work with?
I think I would say the common denominator right now with conversations have probably been around self-motivation. Like, and it may have something to do with the current times that we're in, but I think a lot of founders are sort of looking for that self-motivation, how to get over that hump, and just the idea around, how do you stay resilient? So I think that's the common denominator that I've been seeing a lot lately.
Yeah. We're going to wrap up in a couple minutes. If you've been on How I Built This, you're a founder on How I Built This, and I see you, I've been inviting people on because none of this is planned. I didn't know Troy or Nancy or, Brian. Brian, we talked about this earlier, but I didn't know, people are going to be here. So if I do invite you and you don't want to join, no worries at all. We'll be doing this regularly on this channel. If you aren't a subscriber to How I Built This, please check it out. I think you'll like it. If you're in this room and you're enjoying the conversation, check out the show. It's a highly produced show, so it's less kind of ephemeral as this, but hopefully you'll get something out of it. I'm giving away. Yes, please.
Sorry, Brian here again, talking on the banana. I just wanted to say something just to reach out, and kudos to you again. The impact that you have, you make all of our stories look great because of how you interview and how you story tell, and it's unbelievable. True story. I was out for dinner last night after a business meeting, and the waiter comes up and saw my 1-800-GOT-JUNK jacket, and he goes, "Oh my gosh, you were on Guy Raz, How I Built This. And he wasn't excited about me. He was excited because of you. And he felt somehow that he had a little contact and connection to you. No, I'm not kidding. The reach of your podcast has been unbelievable. So again, thank you from
Brian,
all of
thank
us.
you so much. Thank you. So nice to hear. We are giving away 5 books. I think we've picked 3 people. We've got 2 more to give away. Tori, let's give 2 more books away that we can send to people tonight.
All right. Okay, here we go. So just a reminder, if I read off your name and username, go ahead and DM us at How I Built This on Twitter. Okay, so we got some lucky people in the audience, starting with Julia Stocky at Julia Stocky. And our last person tonight will be, we've got Joe Wong, Joe 9629.
All right, Joe, Julia, Susan earlier, Stella, and Dr. Sophia. We'll send you books, and we'll do this again. We'll send more books out in the coming weeks and whatever when we do these calls. So, all right, Yulia, we're going to go to Yulia for our last question of the night. We've got Nancy, Troy, and Brian. You stayed with us. Thank you so much, Yulia. You are on. You've got the floor. Tell us briefly what you're doing and what's your question.
Thank you so much, Guy. I'm a huge fan of your podcast and totally having a fun girl moment right now. Thank you for being here and for doing this for all of us. I'm sure everyone else feels the same way in the room. So I'm a travel journalist and an entrepreneur, and I'm building a platform for women in travel media to help them break into the industry. And my question is, knowing that there is a gap in the VC sphere between female founders that get funded and female founders that are out there, I think the latest numbers I saw was like 3% of female founders get VC investment. My question is, what advice would you have for female founders who walk into that room, into that pitch meeting, and they know that gap exists? What advice would you have for them? What would you tell them?
Nancy, could we start with you?
Yeah, I'm going to take that one. And I think maybe, Guy, during our time together, I talked a little bit about my first experience pitching a group of angel investors.
Yes.
And I showed up to an auditorium of all white men. I was the only female presenter. And not only that, I was the only female presenter who was not within tech. I was within beauty. And I was speaking to an audience that was so disconnected to my demographic. And I remember there was a point in which I felt like I should have just turned around and left. I wasn't supposed to be there. But I said, you know what? I came all the way out here. I have a great presentation. I obviously believe with my entire being in my plan and my vision. And I'm going to get up on that stage and just deliver with confidence. And if it works, awesome. If it doesn't, you know what? It was a great practice run through. And after my pitch, I was in a room with a table with my products, and so were the other entrepreneurs. And not one investor came by my table until the very end of that night. And that one investor that came by said, I know nothing about beauty, but I've got to tell you, you were the most confident speaker, and I want to get behind you. Let me know when you're ready. And that investor who knew nothing about beauty, but believed in me because of my confidence and because of my passion, became my first angel investor. So there's a lot of weight to believing in yourself. That resonates confidence. And I've got to tell you, it is infectious. So I would not let the fact that you are female or any of that, deter you from pursuing avenues to raise funding. And I really do believe that the passion resonates and you will find the right person to invest in your company.
Thank you for that, Nancy. Yulia, thank you for that question. And Nancy, I seem to remember that first angel investor who was investing in your hair care products company is totally bald, right?
Yes, he's totally bald. And I don't think he owns one beauty or personal care product.
I love that story. It's such a great story.
Yeah.
All right, folks, we're going to wrap up. Again, this is the How I Built This Club. If you haven't followed it, please do go ahead and follow the club so you will know when our events are happening. We're going to try to do them twice a week. We hope at least once a week. We're working on a regular time. And you can always check out our podcast, the How I Built This podcast, available wherever you get podcasts. If you want to find out more about our live event series, you can go to nprpresents.org. We do a live show every Thursday on our social media channels. That's via video. We've had Troy on, and we've had a couple other alums from the show on. We're going to be doing this stuff, lots of stuff here on Clubhouse, and we're going to be experimenting and taking more of your questions. I'm sorry that we didn't get to all of them. I've got to get better at this because I'm very long-winded, and then we want to keep people on. So we will work through everybody's questions over time. It may just take a couple of years. So thank you again for joining us. It's the How I Built This Club. Brian Scudamore, 1-800-GOT-JUNK, Nancy Twine of Briogeo, Troy Carter of Troy Carter. Earlier, we had Melissa Butler of the Lip Bar. We had Steve Case, of course, of AOL, and Jamie Simonoff of Ring. So great having you all. Tori and Julia, who run our social media channels, are the best. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Thanks,
All right.
Guy.
Thank you. Good night. Thanks, guys.
Good night, everyone.
Okay, bye-bye.
Good night.